Hello, Richard from budgetguitarist.com. Today we finish this monster StewMac build. First things first, I've never done any kind of staining, wood grain filling, true oil, any of that kind of stuff before. What I was shooting for was a red color with sort of like the black grain showing through. And while I did sort of kind of achieve that, not exactly super happy, nor did I think I would be. I think if you want to get into this kind of stuff, it's really important to be willing to make mistakes and just try stuff and learn from it. There's a lot of stuff I've learned about staining and grain filling and all that kind of jazz that if I were going to do another body, I would be able to improve upon. But rather than continuously sanding this thing down and doing more experiments and making this video series drag on for 2 more months, I decided, okay, stop. Don't worry about the cosmetics, just put it together. I mean, there are certainly worse looking bodies than this. Anyway, I was just finishing putting in the screws. I screwed the holes. I got my tuners in. You know, the back of this neck might not look great, but it sure does feel nice. Boy, it's got a nice feel to it, nice satin feel. So today we're going to put the thing together and we're going to play it and see what happens. Okay, so I've put a new nut in here, which I think the way I've sanded it, it is intentionally a little high because I wanted a little wiggle room. See about that. The neck is essentially done. Let's move on to the body. Okay, so here's the bridge it comes with. Here's the replacement brass saddles that I purchased. You might wonder, Richard, where's your electronic screwdriver? Where's your electric screwdriver? Well, it's in the garage. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but what I actually did is I took my workbench, which was in that corner, and I put it out in the garage. Actually, let me show you. Kind of messy, but see back there, that corner? Now I've got all my guitars in a rack back there, almost all of them. You might be asking, Richard, why did you want to get rid of these and buy these? And the reason is because these are compensated. In other words, with these guys, wherever you put this, both strings are going to be stopped right there at the exact same point. Well, if you look at any guitar, here's a good example. Look at the bridge. See how they're all slightly different? That's necessary for correct intonation. And so somebody at some point in time got the bright idea of making compensated saddles where one of them is a little more forward than the other. And so you can play around with these and you can get your intonation definitely better. Now this, whatever this sheet metal is versus this brass, does that have an impact on the tone? I don't know. I like brass. Guitar players argue about the silliest things, don't they? I mean, brass versus metal, it's like, well, practice scales more. Me included. So I'll use the screws and the springs that came with these saddles, because why wouldn't I? Look at that, fits like a glove. So basically for intonation, what normally happens is the pattern is usually the same. And I'm going to exaggerate it, but roughly what happens is with these 3 strings right here, it starts here, and then it kind of goes at an angle. So this one is closer to the nut than this one. So it's here, then closer, then the 4th one is farther away again, then closer. So with that in mind, when I put this saddle in, I want to make sure that I am doing it correctly. You know, you get to be older, you can't see with the damn. That's good right there, like that. This is a pain in the backside, by the way, putting these on. I mean, of all the bridge designs, this is probably the dumbest. But it was invented by Leo Fender in the 50s, so I guess I could cut him a little slack. But boy, is it difficult to do. Ah, gotcha. Look at that, it's starting to look better already. Let me pause the film, and I will put the other 2 in. You know, I'm looking at the TV, I'm kind of like, what's my hair look like? And then I'm thinking like, who cares? Where was I? Righty-tighty. Your unpleasant family smashed up my car. Somebody told me that Tony was a little grumpy. Yes, he is. All right, this is not so bad. So that's done. You know, StewMac makes like a $600 kit where the parts, including the body and the neck, are all from Wilkinson. That's probably a good quality kit. This one on sale is around $200, maybe less. So, of course, all the parts are subpar. Of course they are. You know, but if you've never built a guitar kit before, this really is the best way to start. If I botch this entire job, what's $200? It's like one night in a hotel. And not even a super great one. That is firmly secure. Now I'm going to feed the wire through. Feeding the wire through, because it has to make it all the way down to this cavity down here. So I have to feed it through there, and then I have to feed it through this next part. Come on, baby. Get in there. There is a hole. Just because I want to date this video, like make this video seem dated. I just finished watching season 2 of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. And what a great, great series that is. I absolutely love it. I love it. To me, it's what Star Wars should be. Okay, look at that. So now, it's starting to dawn on me. There's pre-drilled holes for everything except the pick guard. So, what I'm going to need to do now is I'm going to need to mark the holes, then take the body out to the bench, drill the holes, and then come back. So to mark the holes, we're going to use this old-fashioned thing. From what I can tell, it's made out of wood, and it's got some kind of like lead in the middle of it. I don't really know what you would use it for, but apparently it leaves marks on things. I'm used to using a keyboard. But now it'd be a mistake to mark these, drill the holes, and then discover that there's no room for this piece to fit. So let's go ahead and fit this guy in. Not wiring it up, right? I just kind of want to see where this would end up. Hey, check it out. Blood pressure pills. I forgot to take them today. No time like the present. Public service announcement. Once you hit 40, no matter how good you feel, get your ass in to get a complete physical and blood work done by the doctor. Because when I did it, I felt fine. My blood pressure was 180 over 120. Yeah. So my doctor immediately started me on blood pressure pills. And we went through a bunch of different variations and got to the point now where I'm basically 122 over 80, like all the time. That is super important, though. Just do it. I don't actually need to screw it in all the way for this. I'm just positioning, because these holes are pre-drilled, and I want to make sure I got them in the right spot. I'm on vacation right now. I have 2 weeks off. Christmas vacation. It is amazing. Love vacation. I like what I do. I like being a web designer, web developer, I should say. But okay, so you can see how precisely that fits. I think my biggest concern here is to make sure that I'm not like obstructing the neck pocket. I think that is actually my biggest concern, because this is a pretty tight fit in here. This pick guard, I would say that this pick guard is not incredibly precisely shaped. Like this edge right here is going into the pocket a little bit, and we do not want that. So I think the decision is like, do I want to file that down, or do I want to try to position it so that none of the plastic is on the pocket? And I think that is about right. So right now I'm penciling in a dark circle where each of these screw holes will go. And I'm going to measure the screw. I'm going to find the correct drill bit. I'm going to measure the screw. I'll find the correct drill bit. And then I will drill the holes, and then I'll bring it back here. Oh, this means I got to rethread the wire again. Well, that's not a big deal. Question is, can I see the holes? Yes, yes, yes. Yes, 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 and yes. Yes, I can see them. Okay, let's pause. I'll go drill, and I'll bring it back. Okay. Holes drilled. I got the plug from my screwdriver, so I'm recharging that while I work. Let's feed the wire back through yet again. I think there's two kinds of people who watch videos like this one. I think there's people who are like, here's a guy who's doing this guitar kit build. I've thought about doing one of those before. Let me watch this and see what's involved. You know, and you don't just watch mine, you watch a bunch of different ones. And then I think there are the people who one day will watch so that they can comment on everything I'm doing wrong. It's like, that's cool. I mean, if it's legit and you can tell me, and you can tell me why, and I can learn from it, then it's like I'm getting a free education from you. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. I think one of the biggest challenges in a build like this is just making sure that you keep all the screws separate and organized, because it's so easy to lose a screw. So let's switch to the smaller screwdriver. I'm going to put this in old school, put these in. And then I'm wondering if I'm going to have to take a file and just file down that little bit of plastic, but I'll figure that out when I seat the neck. Man, I'll tell you something, my hands have taken a beating putting this thing together. I can't use my thumb on my iPhone to identify myself right now because of the grain filler and the stain and the chew oil and all the, and all this stuff. It's like they're pretty beat up. So people who do this for a living, I'm beginning to understand. I think I want to keep these screws a little loose so I have a little play in here, because everybody likes a little play. Tell a funny joke just to get some play, and then you try to make a move and she says, no way. Young MC from back in the day. The old 80s rap. You know what to do, chief. Bust a move. This particular hole could have been drilled a little bit better. That one's not great. All the other ones are lined up pretty decently, but I got one that's just a little bit off. So with all this work, I'm going to end up with something that doesn't have the polish of a $129 square bullet. But the point is not to save money, because you won't. The point is that you enjoy building stuff with your hands. And for me, the point is I've never done one of these. I always wanted to do one, and now I'm doing one. I'm under no delusions that this thing is going to give my Fender Telecaster any kind of run for its money. I know it won't. It's okay. It's definitely fun to build. I've definitely learned a lot. I think one of the things that I've learned is if I ever wanted to build again, I think I would buy a pre-painted body. And I think I mentioned this before, but my original plan was to put my standard Telecaster pickups in here from my Made in Mexico Fender. But I think people would like to hear what the pickups that come with this kit sound like, so I'm putting them in. We'll see what they sound like. That's in. It's starting to look like a guitar almost. Well, except for the questionable finish. Okay. Tony's going to kill me. He's got so much editing to do. You know what I'll do? I'll give him an extra Twixt bar. He likes those Twixt bars. It's like a cookie with caramel and like chocolate. Who doesn't like a Twixt bar? You know what I don't like is those Butterfingers. They just get stuck to your teeth. Dentists like them, but I don't. I mean, I like them, but not good to eat. Remember Bit of Honey? Have that when you're a kid. If I had it now, I'd pull a filling out. Remember candy cigarettes? You know, when people talk about how great the old days were, it's like, what? We have the internet. What would you like to watch or listen to? It's there. You can access it. In terms of guitars and pedals and amps, there's never been a better time. The market is flooded with stuff. all these different guitar companies and the small ones and the big ones. I will tell you what though, the big company that I like the best is Fender, because Fender really does have something in the line for everybody. For $129, you can get started. You can get a Squier Bullet, fix the sharp fret ends, and you got a good starter guitar right there. That's good. And then you can go all the way up to the Stratosphere. Stratosphere as in Stratosphere parts. That's some really nerdy guitar humor joke right there. Okay. Look at how thick these screws are for mounting. Look at that. I mean, these screws are massive just to mount this thing. Okay. So same deal as before. Feed the screw through. Put the spring on. Something tells me I'm going to miss the early days of this channel. This first year where, you know, I only have like 300 subscribers at this point. When I get to the point where I'm attracting the trolls, it's going to be like, ugh, I have to deal with trolls a lot. Right now, nobody knows about my channel, just the 300 people who have subscribed. And so I don't get trolls yet. But one day I will. Talk about an annoying design. Yeah, this goes right in. It's super easy. Look at that. Piece of cake. Tony would say, aw, geez. I should have set up 2 cameras for this so that you could see a close-up of me being barely able to function with tools. But I mean, again, the reason to do this is for fun. And if you don't enjoy doing this kind of stuff, don't do it. I've definitely enjoyed this build. I mean, if it were super easy, there'd be no point in doing it. You want super easy, buy a Squier Bullet, take all the screws out and put them back in again. That's easy. Keep coming back to the Squier Bullet for some reason. Come on, baby. Get in there. Yeah. There we go. Oh, it's a bit much, isn't it? Pick it down a little. Seems about right. That assembly's done. Now I can feed the wire through and I can screw it back in, and we will be ready to solder, or as the British say, solder. They also say aluminium. And what's all this then? What's all this then? I wonder if any of those 300 people subscribed to this channel are from England. If you are, please understand I have a great amount of admiration for your sense of humor. Monty Python, IT Crowd. I mean, the funniest stuff is British, I swear. IT Crowd is my all-time favorite sitcom because I'm a computer nerd. And in the United States, The Big Bang Theory was the big popular show, which I thought was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But my sense of humor is not the same as other people's. Obviously. This is coming together. I think this is going to work. Because I don't really want to strip the screws, you know, where you're using the button and it's going, that's bad. That tear up the head of the screw and cause you all kinds of problems. That's bad. I'm not really mechanically inclined, but I don't let that stop me from doing the stuff I want to do, you know? If you're not good at something, it means you haven't done it enough. So here's the concept. We're almost done with this build, basically. Check this out. We've got our 2 wires. The yellow is from the neck pickup, and the red/orange, whatever this is, red, is from the bridge. We've got our positive, we've got our negative. These junky electronics here, basically, these are the solder points, right? So all of these wires are going to have to solder onto these different points. I don't have to solder the dime pots because they're already done, so that's kind of cool. And I actually am going to cheat. I'm going to get out the manual to make sure that I'm putting these wires on in the correct place. So let me pause, and I'm going to set back up out at the workbench in the garage, and we'll solder this up. Now all I have to do is find the solder. Look at that. Radio Shack 6040. Do you have any idea how old this solder is? I don't. but I'd say it's probably really, really old. Hey, look at that. It's my lucky day. Hey, it's Eric from StewMac. If you want to learn how to do this stuff, don't watch my stuff. Well, watch my stuff to see what I do right and what I do wrong, but watch the StewMac YouTube channel. It really is the best. Look at this. That's probably what I should have done. Truck with a fishing boat just went by. In December, I live in Florida. Electronics, here we go. Look at this. Okay, so these guys right here, we've got 2 ground wires and we got 1 hot wire. So 2 of these guys are going to go to the output jack, which is going to go right here. You got to admit, these are some really good instructions. Look at how clear that is. Usually when I read instructions, everything looks like an Escher drawing, like it's like a bizarre scale that can't actually happen in real life. I'm wondering, is my big fat gut in the movie? If you like this kind of video, check out Dave's World of Fun Stuff, the YouTube channel. He's a grumpy Canadian, and he's hilarious, and he's one of my favorite YouTubers, and he does this stuff like professionally. He knows what he's doing. I'm a hobbyist. He's like a professional. I think he's great. So I'm putting some solder on the tip of this thing, and right about now I'm wishing that I had a soldering iron that had a little teeny tiny tip on it. Maybe I need to buy one. I don't actually have one. If your hands shake like mine do, this is extremely difficult. Never blow on your solder joints. I do it all the time. You're not supposed to do it. That is not bad though. I realize that I'm blocking the camera and you can't probably see anything at all. The ground goes to the innermost. So this is the ground right here. And the tip is the positive and the ground is the negative. So this is the ground. This one that I'm constantly tapping with my finger here. Can you see that in the movie? When you're doing this, how do you know if you've drilled too deep? Well, it's a good idea to tape up right about, hey, let's unplug the soldering iron. Yeah. Tape up about how far you want to go in. So maybe about this far. Yeah, there you go. That's how far I want to go in. Here. After this, we're going to go back inside. We're going to put the neck on. We're going to put... Well, no. We're going to go back inside and we're going to test the pickups through a amp. Just gonna tap them, make sure I like what I hear. Then we'll put the neck on, put the strings on, we'll set it up, and we'll play through it. See what it sounds like. Look at that. We're done. Groovy. Let's go inside. Okay, both. And bridge only. Perfect. First try. Almost like I know what I do. I do know what I'm doing. All right. So, what's next? This is next. I'm going to put the neck on. Neck plate. So the screws go through the body and into the neck. See, I really want to do the final tightening with a regular screwdriver, which I left in the garage. No, I didn't leave it in the garage. It's right here. It's my lucky day. All right, tighten that. Tighten that sucker up. This thing's starting to resemble an actual guitar. I like to keep my left hand here in case the thing slips. I'd rather have it slip into my finger than across the wood. I mean, even though this bodywork is nothing to be super proud of, I still don't want to redo it if I don't have to. Back, front. This is one chunky neck. I never really realized how chunky this thing is. Also, I can tell I've got a little bit more fine sanding to do. Frets feel good though. Boy, this neck is like beefy. I'm wondering about this nut that I put in, if I'm gonna have to take the slots down, what the height's gonna be like. We've got these cheap tuners up here that I put in earlier. Let's put the cheapo strings on this guy, and then we'll set it up. Put on. Third, sixth, first, fifth, fourth, third, second. There we go. I wonder what gauge these are. I wonder if I'll be able to tell what gauge these are. I have never played junk strings before. Never, never, never. I like the D'Addario, and I like the Ernie Ball. Those are good. God only knows what these are. But since I expect to be changing everything out at some point in the near future, I'm just going to put the crappy strings that come with this thing on. I need a wire cutter. All right. Yeah. I did a setup video using my Epiphones. So there's that. This bridge should actually be back this way about 1/8 of an inch more, I think. This'll work though. It'll work. It'll be fine. You know what? I think I'm going to put some music on and not do narration for the rest of this and speed this up because it'll be less boring. If you know anything about guitars or Telecasters, you might be saying, hey Richard, you forgot to put in the string trees. But the reality is, I wanted to see what the angle was so that I could kind of see like where to put them and do I need them. And I think it's pretty obvious that I do need them. The angle here of this high E string, I am not certain that this thing can stay in the slot. So I probably will need them. But as to where I'm going to put them, that I'm going to have to experiment around with. But I'm not going to subject you to that. So I think the thing to do would be roughing the action in intonation. These guys are going to have to come up, up, up. I'm roughing in the heights. The nice thing about Tele saddles is that it doesn't take that long to rough them in because there's basically only 6 screws. With individual saddles, like on the PRS down here, there'd be 12. Twice the work. So I am eyeballing the height here. That's a little high, I think. Looks about right to me. Obviously, my action needs to come up. A funny feeling about these strings. I don't want to jinx myself to say what I think might happen with them as I play around with them, but you can use your imagination. Maybe I'll capture it on film. That'll be awesome. My startled look of surprise. A little bit of rattle there. So let's go ahead and raise that. I'm going to stretch the strings a bit. Not too much. I need these strings on here while I do all the setup. There are a million different opinions on string stretching. Whether you should or shouldn't do it, how to do it. I mean, again, I don't know that it matters that much. I know that if you don't stretch your strings, your guitar will be out of tune a lot. Stay in that slot. I'll do string trees later, I promise, Mr. E. That's sort of a sitar quality to it. That sitar sound is because of the angle of the string. Because listen, right, when I apply pressure, like where a string tree will be, so there you go. There's a lot more work I need to do on this guy. I've got to put the string trees on, figure out the best place to put them. And this pickup I like quite a bit. This one stinks, so I'm going to have to replace this guy here. The brass saddles sound great. The nut is a little bit too high, so I might need to file down these slots a little bit. So, you know, fine-tune intonation, all that kind of stuff. But in general, I'm pretty much done, and I don't want this series to stretch on into 2022. So what have I learned? I've learned a few things. Staining bodies and doing like true oil finishes and stuff. This is the first time I've ever done it. There's parts of this guitar that look good, and there's parts that look pretty bad. So when you first learn how to do something like that, you're probably going to screw up. I don't care. It's a $200 guitar kit. Overall, in general, I think it looks pretty good, though. I mean, it's sort of what I was shooting for. You can also see that if you have a body that's made out of 3 different pieces like this is why most companies like Fender would actually take a body like this and paint it solid. I will say, this body is more comfortable to play than my Fender because it's got this contoured shape here that I did, and also here. The neck is really thick and beefy, like it's really thick, and I'm discovering that I like it. Like it kind of suits this instrument. I think it sounds really good. More work to do on it, but yeah, it's pretty much done. Would I do another guitar kit one day? I think I probably would, maybe like an SG. But, I mean, for now, I think I'm done. I think I've scratched the itch. I think I'm going to get back to HX Stomp settings next week, something like that. Advice that I would give somebody wanting to do this: if you've watched this whole series, you'll get a really good idea for what's involved. I would not recommend, if you've never done any of this stuff before, I would not recommend a refret, and I would not recommend trying the stain stuff that I did. I would probably just paint the thing. But, you know, that's up to you. I would highly recommend brass saddles. I think they make a big difference. The pickups, well, I'd recommend upgrading the pickups. The electronics, I mean, they're smooth, they work. The switch feels solid. I think I'd probably just leave them alone unless you're really into that kind of stuff. The plastic nut you could probably get away with keeping, although I replaced mine. But in general, for $200, yeah, I mean, with some work, this guitar is probably standard Squier quality. And so that's maybe around $300. You're not saving money if you build your own guitar from a guitar kit because you're getting all the cheap stuff. I mean, all the parts are cheap. The neck and the body are pretty good, though. A good platform to build on. I'm pretty pleased with this project. I like how it came out. I would probably do it again sometime. Anyway, thanks for watching. Next week, we're going to get back to HX Stomp patches and that kind of stuff. So if you like the content that you see on this channel, which is like you never know what it's going to be, you know, some weeks it's songwriting or recording or pickups or tube amps or modeling or building guitar kits. You just never know. And there's a lot of advice on YouTube, like how to have a successful channel, like only do one thing, stick to one thing. Well, I'm not going to do that. This is a hobby. I'm doing this for fun. And if you made it to the end of this series, thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you again next Friday at 5.